Greetings, everybody. As we are celebrating International Youth Day today, as a part of the celebration, Connecting Dreams Foundation is proud to launch its Dialogue for Change Conversations, where we will be in conversation with our change makers weekly. Nothing better to inaugurate the change conversation than to do it on International Youth Day. Today, we bring to you a panel discussion on youth solving world's toughest problems. I would like to extend a warm welcome and greeting to each and every one of you as we celebrate youth change makers and their contribution to building a sustainable impact and empowering communities as change leaders.
Thank you, Krishna Kohli. Hi, everyone. My name is Archie, and I have today Krishna Kohli, who would be moderating the session today. As we continue to build change of young change makers, we're delighted to be in conversation with our Global Change Makers Fellows today. We have our current Global Change Maker Fellows, Duncan Okaka from Kenya, Lakshmi Das from India, Lily Kodros from Canada, and one of our alumni Global Changemaker Fellows, Tafsir Roni from Bangladesh. Thank you so much, all of you, and I welcome all of you to this panel discussion. With that, let's begin by knowing you and your initiatives a little better. So now I'm going to hand over to you, and the first question I have for you is, if you could tell me a little bit about your initiative. Maybe you can share the name of your initiative, and in one sentence, what is the problem that you're trying to solve through your initiative? Tafsir, would you like to start first?
Sure. I think I'm audible right now, and thank you. It's been a long time, and it's good to see all the familiar face of CDF again. So my name is Tafsir, and I'm one of the co-founder of Shusto.xyz. It's a startup based in Bangladesh. We are working on the health sector. So at Shusto, we are trying to enabling affordable healthcare system for the rural people who actually lives in village. The income level is very low. So we are trying to connect doctors and the patients from villages to with technology and making a impact on the health sector. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Tafsir. Lily, would you like to go next?
Yes, hello everyone. My name is Lily Kudrow, and I'm the founder of DeView Early Childhood Institute based in Canada and Ghana. We are bridging the serious language gaps that young children face in education by promoting sign languages in all early years programs, because we believe that the future is not only inclusive, but also education needs to be able to bridge all the gaps that we have in communication so that young children can reach their full potential. I'm excited to be here and to network with everybody here. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Lily, and we're equally excited as you are. Duncan, do you want to go next?
Hey everyone, good afternoon, the fellow panelists. I'm called Okaka Duncan. I'm representing from Nairobi, Kenya. I'm the director and the founder of Saidiko organization. There is a community-based organization operating in the formal settlement of Nairobi, Kenya. Especially we are operating in formal settlement of Nairobi, that we have the largest slum in Africa. So we mainly aim to address the poverty as SDG number 1 that we want to address in the informal settlement, and give some youths the basic needs that they need for them to overcome the life challenges. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Duncan. Lakshmi, would you like to share next?
Hi everyone, thank you for having me here. So my name is Lakshmi and I'm from Kerala, India. I run an organization called Manchi Foundation, and we primarily work with adolescents and rural women in the sector of menstrual health education and awareness. And we've also been working to promote livelihood measures by setting up enterprises that are run by women so that they can have a sustainable livelihood from that. And we've also been focusing on whatever livelihood practices that we're building, that they are eco-friendly and are sustainable both for the environment and for the community that we work in. So this is our work, and so you can take a look at it.
Thank you so much for sharing that, Lakshmi. I think as I just heard all four of you, right, working towards creating livelihood opportunities for women, ensuring eco-friendly products are being created in those enterprises, or just working towards eliminating poverty in your community, providing affordable healthcare, mapping patients to doctors from rural villages by using technology, as well as ensuring the learning gap is reduced by using sign language at early childhood. I think all of them are equally important, but I think something that connects all of you is and keeps you going despite different challenges is your purpose and your reason why. Which brings to my next question, right? Like, what is that tipping point that made you really start your initiative? And I would love to go in the same order. Tafsir, if you'd like to share, like, what was your tipping point to start your initiative?
Sure. So uh, around 100 million people in Bangladesh live still in the villages. So all the big companies, and all the fancy companies, all the biggest healthcare giants are actually working on the city. No one's care about the villages. So a major population, major people are always neglected. It might be their income level is low. It might be there is a huge distance from the city side, so no one was actually caring those. So back in my university life, we were on a tour actually. So we went to very remote villages. So we saw this gap, because no one can actually tell when you don't go, when you don't see the actual face. So we went to that village and see what is happening there. So most of the time what we see that they are taking their medical needs and consultancy from the village medics, who are actually not doctors, and treating like doctors. So sometimes this is causing harmful, sometimes maybe they're working, but they are not certified doctors. So that's why we thought we do some research work. So we saw that doctors are not interested to travel far, and most of the time the village people also not interested to travel in the city. It takes a lot of time and money. So why don't we use technology to connect them very faster? So that was a tipping point to start the initiative.
Thank you so much for sharing that. Um, all right, Lily, do you want to go next?
Yes, thank you so much. So for me, my tipping point, I dropped out of university in 2009. And even, with the several years of education that I have had prior to me dropping out, I realized I couldn't find a good job to support myself, or even to, so that I can go back to school. So I began digging and doing a lot of research. And I also looked around in the community, and I realized that this is, what happens to every, I will say, 3 out of 5 young person, or the youth. And so research showed that actually the problem starts from the educational system, because our parents, had experienced it and they were not really economically stable, and which is why I had to drop out. And this could also be my future. It could happen to my kids as well. And I wanted to break that cycle. So I had to go back and tackle the issue, which is why I decided to start DeView Early Childhood Institute, and then tackle these challenges from the very start, so that young children will be able to acquire the skills and the knowledge they need, so that no matter what situation they find themselves in, they will be able to achieve their full potential. And especially with children with disabilities, they actually, are neglected and segregated out of a lot of things and in education. So we think that these people are not able to do a lot. But then I will say, yeah, that is my tipping point. And I hope I've answered your question as well.
Yes, thank you so much, Lily, for sharing that. Duncan, would you like to share next?
Thank you very much, Anchi. With over 5 million population of Islam people in Kibra generally, and over like 57 non-profit organizations that are operating informal settlement, out of the research that we did as organization, we get that we had some number of population that the people were depending generally on organization aspect for them to survive. So that means a person could be in a certain organization over a period of 20 years without any transition. Uh, Organization coming internationally, other new organization coming, but there was no changes. The people are just being faced with the poverty index level, where we get that nobody could even earn, or she or he could get 100 bob in a day, and per what the United Nations state that a person, when she or he is able to get $1 in a day, then that person is below the index level. But the same in the slum, it was a very big of the challenge that where we get a lot of youth drop the school in the slum, resulting to the high poverty level where they could not even complete the school, where they could not even complete the primary or whatever part. So they lack the skill, which increased the poverty index level. So after the research that we did as organization, we said that we need now to come up with the new fresh mind on the market. We need to come up with new idea on what could be the changing margin for the youth, so that we can set up the programs that can change the life margin for the youth, that can reduce the poverty index level. Because when the nation or the countries doesn't experience the poverty index, then automatically in terms of SDG to be able to grow it in whatever ways. But so we had the various challenges that we all understand how the slum is, that even education was a bit of challenges. The good job, because youth most of the time they yearn to get the good job, which was the vice versa for them, because you cannot get the good job when you have not educated yourself. So we had those challenges that resulted to the poverty. Now we said our turning point is that as organization, we want to come up with unique programs. We want to come up with unique way on how we want to do, on how we want to address the challenges, on how can the youth also try to benefit in the community. How can they try to survive and adapt? Remember, we have also the youth that they have completed the secondary part, they have got to the university, relating to those that they have not completed even the secondary or the primary. Now, how will these two people from different knowledge try to adapt in the community, so that we can have the programs that can reduce? It was actually a changing point for us to address the issue that also we need to operate differently, that we don't need to have the youth to be much dependent on us for them to survive, but at least we need to have some ideas so that we do differently on how others are doing.
Thank you so much for sharing that, Duncan. Moving on to Lakshmi. Lakshmi, do you want to share what was the tipping point that led you to start your initiative?
So for us, as an organization, like it did not happen in a way that we started the organization and started functioning, but it was more in the lines of a personal revelation that something as simple as a disposable sanitary pad that we use every day end up becoming part of the earth as microplastic for the future generations also to consume, and burning this waste personally, that was the moment when I realized, okay, this is one problem that we have as menstruators in a rural village, where the Panchayat said they will not take the sanitary waste part of their program. So this meant we had to deal with the menstrual waste. And when I was personally faced with that problem, I had to find solution to that. And I took up sustainable menstrual practices like cloth pads and menstrual cups. And when I started speaking about this to my community, I realized that women were not aware of these products. And if when they got an opportunity to be aware of these products, they were more than happy to switch to these products. So this was a personal journey that translated into a community activity in my place. And once we started working in the community with women, doing small sessions, we asked them like what is the reason why like they're finding it difficult to come even for a meeting. And the response was that it is actually difficult for us to ask money to our husbands or to the people in our family to get an auto rickshaw and come to the venue. So this means there was this financial crisis that the women in our community were facing. And so then the next step was, what is the solution that we can find about this? And then we started a small online shop where we started putting up these products that were made by the women, which would give them a small income to create a livelihood for themselves. And now that project is scaling up, and we're having more women being onboarded and more products being sold, which is creating a revenue for them, which allows them to participate in activities for the community, which is part of the SDGs on the global level. And on personal level, these are self-actualizations for the women from our community. So the tipping point was when a personal struggle happened with respect to something as simple as disposing of a sanitary napkin. So that is the story.
For sharing. And I think as I was listening to different things, I felt like there were very similar instances, right? Like maybe like a personal story, or I was a part of an experience, and it really motivated me or inspired me to take the change in my hand, or just like the fear that maybe I have to deal with it, or my future generation or my children have to deal with that problem. I need to bring that change. And I think with Duncan, what stood out is just the power of data and how it moved him and made him realize that there is so much that needs to be done, that I need to improve. And I think something that Lakshmi really shared that stood out to me was, yes, there was a personal experience that made me realize that I am uncomfortable with this, and I'm sure many others are, and I need to change this. But I guess also just that curiosity of asking someone, okay, why are you not able to do it, and finding a solution. Like women not coming for classes, and they're just worried that they don't ask for money, and then creating livelihood opportunities. I think it's just beautiful tipping points to hear, and also see what is it that it really inspired you to do what you're doing and you continue to do. With that, I'm going to invite Krishna Kohli to ask the next set of questions. And thank you so much for sharing so openly.
Yes, it was inspiring to hear all of your stories and the tipping points for every work of yours. Now, as I realize, what you're doing is so impactful, but it also comes with a set of challenges. So my question right now is directed towards Tafsir. You working in Bangladesh and in the healthcare sector, what were your main challenges, or according to you, what are the challenges that the youth also faces right now while making a sustainable impact, or if somebody wants to make a sustainable impact? So what are the key challenges that the youth and also you faced?
Thank you. So the main challenge that's as a youth we faced a lot is the support from the surrounding people. So when you are very young entrepreneur and you just started an organization to make an impact. So sometimes surrounding people won't believe you. They literally won't believe you. They thought this is just a scam. So maybe after a few times it will stop. So let's not support them. Let's not stop. Let's not support them. Let's not hear about it. And most of the time, the people who understand, like the government, the NGOs, they are also sometimes not supportive. So this is a very critical stage for all the entrepreneurs who are actually doing, especially the social and environmental things and social startups. So if some people uh, get enough resources from the surrounding, they're very lucky and they can sustain it very easily. But the less you get support from that, the growth of your startup is that much slow. So, and from my end, as I'm working on the not city, I'm working on the village where these supports are very less. So sometimes we had to uh, fight with the local government politics and a lot of people who, and sometimes also the education rate is very low in the villages. So it is also another challenges for us to work on this sector actually, because the people, as I was saying earlier, people used to take medical support from the non-medics who are not doctors, and people are doing it for tens of 20 of years for a long time, and they become the trustworthy person for them, not me. I am bringing doctors to them. They're okay, but before me, they are trusting that person who are working, who are living on that village. Maybe their support is not that right. So this is the key challenges, I think, for me right now and other stars actually.
Thank you for that. And my question, the same question I would like to ask Duncan, because I'm sure that he will also have a completely different view of the set of challenges that he faced while doing his work. So, Duncan, can you tell us the kind of challenges that you faced, or the people who are in your line of work, they face, the youth?
Okay, thank you. Because all of this journey has been faced with a lot of challenge, and despite the fact that we are operating in the informal settlement, where we have the huge population of youth, one of the challenges that we have been facing through is a single parents household. Like today, as we are talking about 14 million single parents household, which are responsible to 28 million children. So this has been a challenge to us, for us to help youth has been a challenge, because now the youth himself, being a lady or a man, she needs to get some basic need for the family. She needs to support the family. The same time, she needs to go to school in order for them to get some education. And when you see the population of the children they're representing about 28 million children, which they are raising generally out of 14 million single parents household youth. So this has been a major challenge to us, that we get that a lot of resources that we get sometimes, we want to allocate the youths to the single parent youths for them, at least so that they can get some basic needs to the family. We see how we can support them in terms of clothing, in terms of medication, for them to survive, and for them also to see that they are able to raise for the healthy children. So it has not been easy, because that population is huge, and it comes to us unplanned, because now it forces us to go an extra mile to use the resources that we have not allocated to them, because sometimes it comes as emergence for us to support them. We have been having another challenge as the drug abuse substances, that around 21% of the high school students admit they use drug abuse, and about 41% of them use the alcohol. So this has been challenged same to the us, because we have been witnessing a lot of challenge to the schools, the burning up of the schools, a lot of the conflict among the youth, because most of them have been engaging to drugs, which has resulted to um, using those drugs for period of time, and sometimes they come too hostile to the organization, that they are too over dependent. Even they cannot understand, they cannot estimate, they cannot appreciate even the little that organization is doing, because they are being controlled by the drug substance. Once they have consumed drug, we find it hard for us to manage them. We find this hard us even to on how we can help them, because they are being driven with drugs, alcohol. That's also result the youth dropping out of the school, which is resulting case that now is not easy for us, because now they consume a lot of drug. And also remember, the drugs have some social effect. They have some health effect to us. They have some hallucination where somebody is using marijuana and all that, and yet they're still the youth. So that means whatever little they get, or even the time we initiate to do some project with them, they tend rather to use that amount of drug substance than involving themselves in a community project, because they're addicted too much to that drug. So hence we are finding it hard on how we can go about it, because either it forces us now to do that project on our own, then we let them run those projects. But when we say that we are giving them something, even we can give them some sewing machine, they either accept selling that sewing machine so that they can go or they can use to drug substance than doing some social and economical impact to the community. So we find it tough for us. Lastly, as we are talking at the moment in Kenya, we are in political period that we just voted recently, some 2 days back the line. So you get that we are having challenge of political and social issues that most of the youth have been involving themselves, where it reaches at the point where as organization you have supporting them, they plan to come to burn the center, or if not, they want you give them something that they can consume, and yet the center or the organization is supporting for their family, is supporting for them, is supporting for their children, is supporting for their sister. But because of the political and some social issues, maybe the political aspirant they were supporting has not clinched the victories and not get the power. So it has been a lot of the challenge, and the setup of the slum also is very challenging on how we manage them. It has not been so easy. It is tough, but we are just maneuvering through how we can go about it. Thank you.
Amazing. That was so insightful. Thank you for that. Now, my next set of questions come to Lakshmi and Lily, because you guys are working with education and menstrual health, two very important topics, and you guys are young yourself. So my question now is, what is, according to you, what's the role of youth change makers in solving problems in our community? Because you have seen these problems and have have taken steps yourself. And so my question is, what, according to you, is the role of youth change makers? Lily, would you like to start?
Yes, thank you for the question. I think our role in creating change today is not just, one way, but I will say that throughout history, opportunities have always presented themselves and challenges in the form of challenges. And so being able to identify those challenges and be able to solve them for our community today and also for the future is very important in continuing life. We want our children to have a better future than us. And not only that, we want also to have a better future today. And so we have to identify those problems and be able to contribute our part to solving some of those things. And it's not always going to be easy because, like I said, the opportunities will always come as challenges, but then it's, when you really want to do something, you will keep, going in spite of the challenges to be able to solve the issues. And the youth today, we have more opportunities because of social media to really scale the solutions that we have. We just have to know how to identify the problems and then be concentrated, be focused in resolving the issues to change our community and also for their future.
Amazing. What important points. And I agree with each and every one of them. Now, the same question, Lily, Lakshmi, goes out to you, because you're working with another very important topic, which is the menstrual health of women, and especially in the rural area. So, you being so young yourself, what what is your view on the role of the young change makers?
So, uh, the thing is, when you ask me about the young change makers, one thing that I personally feel is that uh, we have the capacity to invest more time in social work as opposed to the previous generations. Say for our parents generation, I'm specifically speaking about, say, my community in Kerala or in India per se. They were really struggling to make the ends meet. They were really struggling to make sure that the family is having 4 or 3 meals a day. And as when it comes to our generation, because of the education that we have received and because of the social security that exists, it is possible for us, if we are able to find a job so that we can sustain ourselves, then we actually do have time to spare to invest in problems that we face in our community. We can just take a look around and see what are the problems that we have and find solutions to it from the resources that have been invested in us. Say that one thing is education, the other thing is technology that we have. And another thing that I personally feel has been beneficial for me because of me being a youngster is that uh, I I get to interact with people who have diverse ideas. Say for example, with this fellowship, I'm interacting with people from different parts of the world, and I get different ideas that are being implemented by different people. This say for instance 30 years ago or 40 years ago was not possible. So when we're talking about climate change activism or sustainable menstrual practices, I got to know about this through my interactions with different people from different spaces. And this is the possibility that we have as young change makers, because the accessibility to different information that we have numerous ways of using it. And I think the best part of that is happening to our generation of people is we are able to understand that okay, maybe a lot of material gains are not sufficient to keep our species going on. Not having a big house or not buying a big car is enough for us. For us it is it matters a lot that we're contributing, and that it matters to us that we are making changes that are sustainable. And that change in mindset which has happened to youngsters of our generation, I think that is really profound, and that is my biggest hope also, because we're able to say this is enough. We are not buying a lot of things that were being sold to the previous generations. We're not buying those things, and that is beautiful, I guess.
How beautiful. Um, so education, menstrual health, and healthcare system, and empowering of youth. I think we have everything in this panel right now, and we can hope for a brighter future in every direction. Now, I would call upon Archie to take on the audience questions that we have.
Thank you so much, Krishna Kohli. And I think I'm just going to give another minute or so a heads up to the audience. If you have any questions for our panelists, please just drop it on our YouTube live chat, and our team will share it with us here. And even I'm also actively looking at just the YouTube live. So please feel free to share there. I think something that I was just hearing all of you share, right? And certain points that came out in terms of certain challenges, as well as with the role we've seen young change makers play out. I saw like a push and pull, and I think I'm just like sharing a question that came on top of my mind is like, I heard the seed you talk a lot about, like there's a need. There was a lot of energy that went into just changing mindsets of people because they're used to certain ways of living, right? And I think to bring about that change takes some time and effort. And I think at the same time, Lily, you sharing, like looking at these opportunities with the set of challenges, but I'm at the same time also sure that there have been times which were difficult for you, or you felt like, okay, I don't know how to move ahead or to give up. And I think my question here is like, what is it that kept you going? Tafsir and Lily, if you could share that. And I think at the same time, like, how did you find that balance between this constant rejection of failure by not being able to change people's mindset, at the same time also being optimistic? Like, how did you strive that balance? Because you are right now still continuing to work at your initiative. So would love to hear your thoughts as well.
Thank you. So it's okay to get rejected. So there is a lot of rejections, and still we are learning. But there is still some good people, still some supportive people who are actually helping us. And with the help of CDF, we actually got a lot of connections. And that is not just in India, it's in globally. And with the help of CDF, we actually got some connection in my country too. So the CDF is very powerful in the network ecosystem right now. So with uh, currently we are working on the networking sector first to develop connection. So as Archie, you were saying that it takes time. It is true, it takes time, because the first 2 or 3 steps of ours very ours. We went to people, and people did not show any interest to talk with us. But after a few attempts, we did some live campaign. So after a few campaign, people started believing us. So still the ratio is very low according to the history, but people started believing it. It's taking time. People started believing us, and some people are coming by their willingly and asking us how they can get into this, how can they take benefit from it. So, so every social entrepreneur is trying to make an impact with their initiative. So everyone on the surrounding should take and help them, because as long as we support the new startups, new initiative, they will grow and change our society more by more, and this is how we will grow, right? So I think that's all from my end actually. So the support is the main key from my end.
Thank you, Tafsir. I think something that I'm taking up is like being patient, being resilient, and I think there has been change, but there's still a lot that's left. Thank you so much for sharing that. Lily, do you have any thoughts on this? Like, how do you find that balance between the rejection and still being very optimistic and positive each and every day? Because you're working with the education system, and we also know that it comes with its own structures and standardization, and it's often difficult to walk in with an alternate way of approaching the same thing. So just would love to hear your thoughts as well.
Sure. Thank you so much. So for me, I think resilience is key, especially in my field in education. You always have to understand that policies will not change overnight, and it will take time. Even it takes time to change ourselves. Right? If I want to, let's say I want to do something, lose weight personally or learn a new skill or something, it's going to take time for me to even change that with myself. And so resilience is key in every aspect. And, coming from my background, I will say dropping out of school and all that, it's really helped me some way. It's not always easy, like to accept, okay, I'm okay with rejection. But some of those challenges and stories of how you've been able to make it in spite of past failures and stuff really helps you to navigate tough times. And I want to just chip this in. Last year, I applied for a degree program, right, in a university in Canada, and I was rejected. I did not give up. This year, I applied for a master's degree and I was just accepted. So you can imagine if I had given up, right? I applied first for a degree. Now I have a master's degree. I've been accepted into a master's degree of education program. So I think that rejection sometimes is an opportunity to get something better, but it doesn't show that way. And it's when you keep going and stay resilient, that is when you're actually going to get, the benefits or the experience that you need out of the situation. So we just have to keep going, and every day, the little impacts that we are able to make should keep us going. Ask yourself, what impact can I do today? What can I do today? Instead of just looking at, okay, the future, I'm not really getting where I want to get, and so I'm going to give up. What small impact can you do? If it's even in one person's life, is it in a child's life in your community? What can I contribute today? And if you take it one step at a time, a day at a time, you will eventually get there if you continue.
Thank you so much for sharing. I think something that I am personally learning from just what the two of you shared is like, holding on to your rejections, because when you meet that success, you're going to enjoy it and you're going to really find the taste of it. So thank you so much for sharing, and congratulations, Lily, for getting into Masters of Education. I know how much you really wanted it, so congratulations for that.
Thank you.
We have one question from our audience, and it goes to Duncan and Lakshmi, you, because you've been working with women, Lakshmi and Duncan, you're working with the community very, very closely, and it requires a constant ecosystem for you to see success, right? So I think I also want to understand from the two of you certain inputs, like what has it been like to create that ecosystem within your community, to see a more sustainable or a hope for more sustainable impact in the future. So Lakshmi, maybe if you can share, and then Duncan, you can share next.
So here, I think that's a very important question that you've asked. Whoever have asked it. So creating an ecosystem or creating that community is the key to whatever activism that we want to do. Because standing alone, if we are trying to push an idea, I think the receptivity that it receives is very less. But what we have been able to do here as Manushi's initiatives is that the first step was we would, it would be just me and Pooja who would, go to the Anganwadis. Anganwadis are, those of you are not from India, Anganwadis are these places where children who are younger than 4 years are taken care of. And so we'd go to the Anganwadis, and these teachers who are in charge of the Anganwadis would facilitate sessions and call in young girls to conduct these menstrual health awareness sessions. So we started talking to young children, actually children under the age of 18. And once we started talking to them, once we started telling them, like uh, the premise of menstrual health education is not just health and hygiene, but it's also about telling young menstruators that they have agency over their body, that they can make informed choices about what products that they want to use during their menstruation, and which directly translates into giving them an understanding or a feeling that they have agency over whatever choices that lie ahead of them. And from there, once we started interacting with young girls, and they started telling us, okay, you should talk to our mothers, or you should talk to our older sisters, because they also require this information. And that is when, from children, that ecosystem grew into their families. And once women in the family started gathering, and we started taking sessions for the women, then we could clearly see that an ecosystem was being formed, which was holding the idea of sustainable menstruation, or holding the idea of making an informed choice about something that is a shared experience for all the community members. And here the best part was, because we were talking, or because we're interacting with them about menstruation, this created a space of sisterhood. So, beyond caste, politics, or economic backgrounds, or anything that usually divides a society, now the women were coming together in the spirit of sisterhood because of the shared experience of menstruation. And seeing that was a very powerful moment for me and for the people working in Manushi, because none of us are working per se; we are basically volunteering. So this was the moment where, that we could see that the that community was being nurtured organically. And from there, once we started building that community, then we could identify problems that the people were facing. And once we identified one problem, which was financial struggles, we could devise methods to overcome that. And the next step, now that we are identifying that our community is really struggling with the effects of climate change, because the weather is becoming so erratic that, all the agricultural practices are becoming a problem. Ours is basically an agrarian community. So now we have identified another problem from the community, because this is live, the community is live and is interacting, and sharing is happening regularly. So now we have another problem, and we need to work to see how we can solve these problems. So I think the first sessions that we did, we only had five girls in the session. So as of today, within a span of 1.5 years, we've reached out to over 800 women and have taken sessions. So when I say 800, this is usually small groups of 20, 30 participants. We don't do these large scale programs. It's always a very close circle, because only then it feels personal. So whenever community work is being initiated, I think it's really important that everyone in the community feels that this is about them, that it is a personal thing. It's, and like, this is something that I always say, because for me, this work is very selfish, because I am doing this for my community. And it is from that sense that my work is being driven, because it gives me a lot of purpose, because it's much like doing something for my family, or it's much like doing something for myself. And so that made it easy to develop this community organically. It didn't matter if 100 people turned up, if 5 people was enough. And that was powerful, because we could see how that scaled up over the years. I hope I answered your question, Archie.
Thank you so much, Lakshmi. And I think just hearing the power of stories and the sense of community that you created in your ecosystem that led to people very openly sharing that the problems that they felt. And I think because they were the problems that they felt, they were also passionate to work about it. And I think it also validates something we at CDF strongly hold about, right? Keeping the user at the center. So thank you so much for sharing. Duncan, do you want to share like how did you really create an ecosystem with your community towards creating or seeing a hope for sustainable future within these communities?
Again, because of the Italia before, it has not been simple to create the sustainable development actually in the community where you're operating. That it needs us to be resilient, which has taken time for us to be resilient, because most people have said that we had this the rejection point of it in the community where you are being get rejected. It's not the rejection in terms of the people you are serving, maybe in time of the resources. When you don't have enough resources, automatically the people will have to reject you. And also we are having the rejection in terms of the big organization that operating, those that they have resources, because you see the way they're operating is different on how we're operating. They have resources, maybe they will just dish out money, they will have dish out resources where maybe for us will know that they are not impacting a community as large. So we get is not easy because the caregivers and the people we are support, they want us to do the way other people do, which automatically cannot work out. Out of all that, because we have been able to create a sustainable development through the program that you are doing, because first of all, we developed, because before we started doing operation to see on how can we get the supportive program. So the program that we implemented as organization, it was directly the program that were to support and to equip the community at large, the challenge they're facing on. So that was easy for us to maneuver and to get those sustainable impact, because we didn't just started because we are starting. We took our time through the community resource, through the community task force, through the community health volunteering, through the administration office, to make sure that whatever things we are addressing is the real challenge that is supporting our community, so that everybody will have to acknowledge and everybody will have to appreciate whatever little that we will be doing. So through that, after we developed the supportive programs, because it was out of the challenge that the people were facing through, we are able to develop that programs where of that we get the existing organization, the big organization task force in the community, maybe they are depending from the program abroad, either from US, from the Canada, from the donor to them, for them to implement what they need to be addressed. And for us is a little bit different, because we are on the ground. We know the challenge that our people are facing through. We don't need any recommendation from the donor or from whatever. We are the one to recommend this what is being done, because we are there. So we get, it is easy for us to get the impact, because for whatever little we could recommend, it was 100%, because even when a person comes through what we recommended, if it is the aspect of water a crisis, she or he could get whatever the report we reported is exactly the way it is, whereas comparing from the person that maybe is living far from where we are, doesn't know the problem that our people are facing. And so that help us to create the inclusivity and opportunity to youths, so that we can collaborate, and build the network around the community.
Great. Thank you so much. And I think something that's very unique, Duncan, that you spoke about is just giving people from the community that ownership really drove them to build that sense of community. And I think thank you so much for sharing. Another question that's come from the audience is, and I'm going to just try and sum them up because you also have only few minutes left, is for Lily, you and Tafsir, for you as well. And I think because you guys were talking about certain challenges and also being optimistic, right? I think something that they want to hear is like, what is that one moment where you realize that the efforts that you're putting is actually turning into impact? So if Lily and Tafsir, you want to share any instance or a short story with us, which made you realize like, okay, yes, like this is what exactly I was working for or I'm working towards. Tafsir, if you want to go first.
Sure. So I always like this story, and I tell everyone about this story. So this was actually our turning point. So this story. So when we were getting a lot of rejections in the villages, so at one moment, very old man came to us. So his legs was already paralyzed. So he couldn't work that much. So he was very weak. So he even could not go to city. And previously he took medical support from the village fake doctors actually. So this time he came to us, and we set up a doctor's video call with him, and with the proper medical support, he actually getting better within a week. So this was actually a huge shout out for us actually, and on that village or from that side, everyone starting believing us, and everyone was supporting on that village from that story. So this was actually our motivation to work on other villages and set up more and more centers in the villages.
Thank you so much, Tafsir, for sharing. And I think it just takes one example to turn around that entire village. Thank you so much for that. Lily, do you want to share like what was that moment that made you realize, yes, this is what I'm working towards and this is what I really want to build?
Yes, so it's from the success stories from the children that are impacted from our program. So I will share one story of a young girl who, used to be very reserved. She would hardly contribute in class and would always sit at the corner. Coming into our program, she was able to interact with more children, and also because of the inclusive programs that we have, from the sign language programs, the learning through play, and all the other activities that we have. She learned how to socialize and communicate more, and she was able to take back that skill into the classrooms. A child who will normally not answer questions or would even ask questions now is able to, do that, and her learning actually improved in the process. And so for me, some of these stories really touch me a lot because it tells me that over the future, this child is going to excel. And, she now is able to boldly say, I want to become like a presenter in the future, somebody who would hardly communicate, right? So some of these stories really, motivates me and my team every day. When you look at over the future, even in now, they're able to children. There are also children who came into our program and because of that moved on to participate in national competitions, because now they feel more confident that they can stand in front of crowds to communicate and to share their experiences and stuff like that. So yes, this keeps us going, and more of these stories and impacts really helps us a lot to keep doing what we do.
Thank you so much for sharing. And I think for both you, Lily, and Tafsir, I could see the joy in your eyes as you were sharing. So I really know that these are the moments that kept you going. Thank you so much for being so open and sharing. And I think with just the last few minutes left, and I think working with young change makers, I know there are many out there, right, who are day and night working towards bringing a change in their own ways. And I think you being such change makers who've dedicated that life, and just hearing your stories has been personally very, very inspiring. And I'm sure it's been inspiring for many of our listeners as well. I think there's nothing better just to hear like a encouraging message or a message for these young change makers out there, I think. So it'll be great if each one of you could just share like what is your hope from these young budding change makers who are there and are continuously working towards it. So a message for them would be great. And then we will close out the panel discussion. So, I mean, Duncan, if you want to start and then we'll go from there.
Thank you very much for the panelists and those that are listening directly from YouTube and all channel about our hot debate discussion. So as a youth and a global change makers, I think we need to come to the realization of our dream and being very optimistic and hope, despite the fact that we have a lot of challenges that people are facing, but we are much better out of those challenges. Is for those challenges that will make us to be better. I think we can achieve this as a youth through the Heart of 2030 vision and the agenda of the Sustainable Development Goal, which encourage all of us youths to become involved in advancing SDGs and demanding the action by the government. So we need to come to the realization that we also, in the same mandate we can deliver, we need to do an extraordinary, or we should not be sometimes pulled down by rejection and all that, provided we know that we have potential, then everything is possible. We need to network. We need also to see what other people are doing. Then we need to have the trial and error method. Try today. If you cannot get tomorrow, wake up fresh. Try tomorrow, another day. For the only will come to be successful, and we are one that will have to change our nation and the one that will have to change the global change makers. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you, Duncan. Lakshmi, do you want to go next?
So I think one thing that I would like to, tell young change makers is to really understand how powerful their actions can be. Like, it doesn't matter how small or how many people they impact. Whatever small action that they do, I believe I want young change makers to understand that it is very powerful in itself. And my hope is also in that we're able to build communities of like-minded people. That is where my hope is, because I can see that once people stand together as a community, as change makers stand together as a community, without wanting to just be in the limelight, without wanting just to get awards or recognitions for their work that they just want to do. I think those people who are out there, they are my hope, because such people are really going to make a lot of difference, because it's not for anything that they're doing their activity. They're doing it because it is necessary, and that's my hope. Thank you.
Tafsir, do you want to share next?
Thank you. So we just not stop hoping. So the more we hope, the more we dream about our initiative, it will be more growth and more opportunity. Rejection will always come, but we should not stop, because rejections makes opportunity, and think in a new way to work on that initiative, on that part. And I can't agree more that, as Lakshmi said, we have to talk with like-minded people, so we can create more opportunities and make impact together. Thank you.
Thank you, Tafsir. Lily?
Okay, well, I think we've discussed a lot and said a lot, but what I want to conclude with is find your why and make sure it aligns with your purpose. The best thing that will keep you going in tough times is when you you're doing something that brings you fulfillment, you will not stop because of challenges, because you feel like, oh, I'm not happy when I don't do it. And that's how I feel. When I'm not working on my organization, I really feel depressed. So I don't have a choice. I always tell people I have to do it because it brings me fulfillment. And once you discover that, you will keep going. The last thing I will say, I think there is a quote from Denzel Washington that I always use and I always keep at the back of my mind is, if you stick around the barbering shop, you will definitely get a haircut. And so it means that you have to always stick to your path, stick to what you're doing, and you will definitely achieve the impact and become successful the way that you dream about. So that's what I want to conclude with. Thank you so much again for inviting me.
Thank you so much for sharing. And I think there's so much of inspiration that I am personally taking away. With that, I'm going to hand it over to Krishna Kohli for closing thoughts.
Absolutely. So what an incredible journey that we went through today. I think we have just discussed the spectrum from tipping point to change to ending with hope. I think there we couldn't ask for a better start to this series and a better way to celebrate International Youth Day. And I thank our panelists for taking out the time from around the world for joining us today. And I hope to continue this conversation weekly through our change conversations. And we will see you very soon.
Thank you so much, Krishna Kohli. And I think thank you so much, everyone, for your time. And these will be conversations we will continue every week with young change makers from across the globe. And so stay tuned for more such conversations. Thank you.